Hi, I'm Lindsay Kuipers. We are here today with Esther Pewterbaugh. She is here from Celina, Texas, to talk about language targets, and we're excited to have her voice. Esther has been in education for 17 years, and she's actually starting a school in the next school year called Faith Heritage Christian Academy in Celina. So hopefully we can hear a little bit about that too. Thank you for being here, Esther.
My pleasure. I'm so glad to be on here with you.
Oh, it's so good to see you. So, for our first question, we're going to talk about language targets. So, Esther, how have you used language targets in your classroom or in your programs?
Really, when we're thinking about content and language targets, content is what the student will be learning, right? And language is in what language the student will be learning that. And so really what we want to see is to provide visual and different opportunities for them to be able to see, what the language that we are teaching them. So Adelingua is really good about teaching language first approach. In order to teach the content, we need to make sure that the students are understanding the language and can begin to produce the work that we're teaching them in the target language that they're learning. So some of those ways would be to model what we're doing as we speak in full sentences. We have the students repeat it. You can have sentence stems up in the classroom. You can have visuals. You can integrate it into different subjects so that they are repeating it and they are exposed to it as they are learning the content. So they're learning to communicate in that language.
How do language targets change the way you and your students talk about language?
We really start to see an ownership of the language. When students begin to comprehend what they're learning, they're able to see now that they can give you an answer in a full sentence. You start to see that there's purpose in learning language, right? Now they own that, wow, I communicated another language. I can say this in Spanish. And so we really are aiming for those proficiency goals, not just to be exposed in conversational Spanish. That is important, but we want them to now start to be proficient in it. And so that is something, there's a difference that we've told parents. Sometimes if parents want to enroll their child and they're kind of in the upper grade and they say, well, they're fluent in Spanish. And we say, yes, you can be fluent in Spanish, but proficiency, right, being biliterate and bilingual. Right. Biliterate is the important piece there, is that they're able to read and understand the content and provide the information, produce the work we're requiring for them to do, understand, whether it's math, science, social studies, language arts. They're able to produce this work in that second language. And that's the proficiency goals that we have for our students.
What tools have you found to be very helpful for highlighting language through content?
We're going to want to provide what the content that we're teaching the students. We're going to want to have visuals in the classroom, anchor charts that you create with students, that you put the vocabulary that they are learning. You can add visuals like pictures. You work on that together to make those connections. Also teaching students to use graphic organizers so that when there's an unfamiliar word, how do we break it down? Right? How do we put that in a sentence? Draw me a picture, make all the connections that they need so that they are really understanding the content. And now when you want them to produce more about that particular subject, they're able to look at their notes. They're able to look around the classroom. They're able to see the example sentence stands. I want you to answer this way. You repeat the beginning of the sentence, right? Here is the content objective. Here is the language objective. So we're going to learn this, and here's how I would like for you to answer and give me more details. And so those are just great teacher skills. That's what a teacher should be doing in the classroom. And so we highlight that in the language as well, having word walls so that the new vocabulary that they're learning, they can look at it and draw from that. So those are a few of those skills that we use in the classroom.
What are the steps you take when lesson planning to ensure you have identified language targets and know how to highlight them in a content lesson?
This is going to be my teacher preparation. What is it that I want the student to learn? How am I going to know that the student is learning the language? And so with that, I'm going to use different things. I can use a exit ticket at the end of the class. I can, have the students, okay, quickly explain to me particular important point of the lesson. If we're doing language arts, what is the author's purpose, right? If they're reading a story, tell me what was the author's purpose. And when they can produce that work now, I can see that, okay, they're understanding that content. And so it's going back to have those conversations with students too, engaging them, having them talk about the content that we're learning so that I can also see that there is comprehension taking place. Because if we're missing that target, then we got to go back and make sure that it is understood before we move on to the next lesson or more content. The goal is not to just be dumping because we need to cover all of this content, is to really make sure that the student is understanding in that language so that they can produce that work, and then we move on to the next thing. And so they're learning all the same core subjects that the students are in traditional English classes. They're just learning it in a second language. So we need to make sure as teachers, to stop and have those conversations, have those checkpoints, have those exit tickets to make sure that there is comprehension taking place, there's understanding taking place.
How has this helped with student output? Having the targets, doing the strategies that you've said, how has all that helped with the students producing language?
Well, that's the beautiful piece, right? That's when you really start to see this language develop in students. And it's just, even though I know it's coming because we know that these practices have been successful, we're seeing a language development taking place. We're seeing, students becoming bilingual, biliterate. But to see that transformation take place, I've had students where I've taught them in second grade and then I had them again in fifth grade, and to see that the work that they can produce, the papers that are writing, the conversations they have with their peers, when you give them those opportunities to turn and talk and you hear this amazing conversation between them in the language that they have learned, you're just like, wow, we're heading towards that proficiency, right? And so that, I think, is an important piece, is to really provide that environment for them in the classroom to be able to turn and talk to their peers, to work together in teams. But you start to see that, and they also start to feel so proud of the work that they do. It, they own it. They will come back and tell me stories. Maestra, I was at the airport and I was able to help a lady who didn't know what was going on before she boarded the plane, and my brother brought me and I asked the questions and interpreted for her, and then she got these victory moments that they see, like, now outside of the classroom, they're making connections with people in the community. They're able to help. They have, bigger dreams that, when they go to different countries, they're using their language. That's when you really see that they own that. And you gave them that gift to be able to be bilingual and biliterate. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. I love
It
it.
is beautiful. I love it too. Esther, the passion oozes out of you. We've loved watching you teach and be a leader in the immersion programs. So tell us, what makes you passionate about the DLI space within education?
My goodness. Well, it's kind of what you were hearing right now, right? Is that passion that we are able to bring this gift of being bilingual and biliterate to students. Their families are just thrilled to see what they can do. We've had families that have gone on family mission trips, and then they see their child in action and working and connecting with students. And they say they're just brought to tears to see what their child is available to do. And they still don't understand the language, the parents, but they know their child is proficient in this language. And so to know that they have these opportunities and these doors open to them beyond our borders here, we're starting to see that they go beyond the borders. There's this whole world that is open to them now. And so I am so passionate about teaching in an immersion setting, so passionate about dual language, bilingual education. And that is why we started the school that we're forming, is we want to make it more available to families. Here in Texas and in the DFW area, there's one school that really does that total one-way immersion. And I've taught in different settings, world language Spanish, which is your traditional, what you do in the United States. I've taught in a dual language setting in public schools where it's a 50-50 model. And I've taught in immersion where it's the total one-way. And really, I see the huge benefit in being in an immersion setting and having that that space where students are really focused in learning that second language, I see the big difference in them getting to those proficient goals. And I would love to see more schools making this part of their educational model and making it more available to families. I think it's going to change the way we see education and how we connect with the world. So I'm very passionate about it. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Tell us a little bit more about Faith Heritage Christian Academy. When are you planning to open? How do we enroll? How do we find more information?
Yes, Faith Heritage Christian Academy will be launching in fall of 2026. We are just kind of finishing up some development on our website, but people will be able to go to our website at faithheritagechristian.com and you can see everything about our school there. And we're focusing on a standalone Spanish immersion because we want to be able to have where the school is all encompassing of the language they're learning in. And so even more of that exposure, because we know when the students come, most of our students, their home language is English. And so this is their exposure to the language. And we really want to provide even more opportunities for them to do that. We're having some open houses, we're having some camps so that people can come and spend a day there and get a little taste of what we're going to be doing. And so we're excited about that.
Very cool.
I love Adelingua. I love the work that you all are doing, and I'm so proud to be partnering with you all. This has been a beautiful partnership, and thank you for all the support that you do and all the work that you guys do to continue to bring bilingual education to more schools.
Thank you. Back at you, Esther.